you guys to HTML5 structural and semantic elements. So what HTML5 essentially is the following. HTML stands for hypertext markup language. Okay, so it is now at its 5th iteration, I believe, if not higher. All right, and it's really basically a text, the ability to display text on your screen, right? HTML does nothing more than displaying text on your computer screen. Okay, so let's come back. Okay, so what are HTML5 structural and semantic elements? So whenever you hear of HTML5 structural and semantic elements, what we're essentially saying is the following. Okay, semantic is the study of the meaning of words and phrases in a language. Semantic elements equals elements with a meaning. What do I mean by that? Examples of semantic elements are the following. Form, P, which stands for paragraph, IMG, which stands for image, header, which stands for the header or head section of your page, footer, which stands for footer, table, or an article. So what semantic essentially does is it clearly defines its content. If a user sees it, I explain it, they will know exactly what it is that I am talking about. Examples of non-semantic elements are divs and spans and so on, right? They really are navs. They tell us nothing about the content that we're looking at. We really can't tell what a div is meant to do or what it's designed to do or what a span is designed to do or what it's meant to do. So let me now introduce you to what's known as some HTML tags, and we're going to navigate back and forth between our HTML5 tags and our HTML5 tags within our Windows and our Mac operating system. Okay, so whenever you write or create an HTML document, the first thing you want to do is you want to declare your document. Okay, so when I have exclamation point doc type equals HTML, what I'm doing is I'm declaring that my document is going to be a hypertext markup language. The next thing you want to have in your document is you want to have the character encoding char set. Okay, so you want to also decode or tell the user or the server exactly what type of character set that you are going to be using. And what that means is the type of language that the alphabet you're using is going to have. Okay, so once you've successfully done that, you need to understand what HTML tags are. Okay, so the following is an open tag, and as you can tell, it says I am open, right? It's very clear for you to see kind of what this is. I am open means I am an open tag, right? I am closed means this is a closed tag. So let's write this inside of our text editor so you guys can see exactly what that will or should look like. Okay, so let's create a sample HTML page. So I'm going to write exclamation point. Exclamation point means I'm declaring, okay, that I'm going to have a document type. And the document type that I'm declaring that I'm going to have is a hypertext markup language document. Okay. In that document, I'm going to have a head. So this is an example of an open tag. Okay. And this is an example of a closed tag, right? So that's basically what these are, right? So open. Okay. So let me do this. So this is an open tag, right? And then over here, right, this is a close tag. So it's very clear to me as to exactly what each of these tags are and what they do. Inside of it, as you've seen in the PowerPoint, was the next thing I need to have is the following. I need to have a meta char set equals, okay, UTF-8. Okay, so those are some of the elements that we were talking about. The next thing I'm going to have is a title. Okay, and I'm going to write, this is my first web page. And I'm going to close it. Okay, again, how do I know that it's closed? So when it's open, it's just alligator open mouth and alligator closed mouth. Okay, when I close it, I just simply have to write a slash at the end to be very clear that I am closing the tag. Okay, once I have successfully written this, I have to save this document as a HTML. Okay, given that this is a text editor, I can specify exactly what is going to happen to each document. Okay, so if I was writing JavaScript, I could save it as JavaScript. If I was creating a Java file, I would save it as a Java file, etc. Okay, although computers can't read Java files because you need a JVM, a virtual machine, to kind of be able to decompile the information. Okay, so let's watch how I'm going to do that. First, I'm going to go to File, Save As. For now, I'm going to save this on my desktop, so I'm going to click Desktop, and I'm going to save it as sample.html. Okay, so once I save this as sample.html, I will notice that this is now on my desktop. So if I go to my desktop, I will see, okay, sample, .html, and I will be able to easily navigate through and kind of find exactly what this is. Okay, so now that I've saved this, let me show you what it's going to look like on your end once you've done it. Okay, you're going to get a little page that's going to look like this with a web browser of some sort. Okay, you want to make sure that it looks like this. Okay, so the key thing is you want to make sure when you save this, you save it as a sample.html, because if you don't save it as a .html file, it's not going to work. Okay, so now let's run this. When I go to run and I launch it in Chrome or Firefox, okay, I will be able to see a blank screen. Okay, so I will see sample.html, but I see a blank screen with absolutely nothing written inside of it. Okay, so now that I have this, I know this is an open tag. This is a closed tag, right? So how am I able to write this information that you see in here, right? The reason I'm able to write the following information is because these are known as comments. Okay, so these comment tags allow for me to write information in here. So this is an example of a comment. Okay, so inside of my web page, I can actually write comments. Okay, I'll leave that as that, right? So whenever I put a alligator mouth exclamation point dash dash and I close it at the end, what my text editor naturally does is it ignores that line. It ignores that section because it recognizes that it's a comment that I am writing, so only for the user to be able to read and see. So it completely ignores it and it does absolutely nothing to it, right? Pretty cool for the most part. So now that I have successfully written the title, right? And when I ran the page, I don't know if you guys noticed, but right, it's very clear that I have a title. Let's go, right? And I see this is my first web page here. That's my title. So from here, if we were paying attention, there's a few additional things that we need to kind of make sure we have. Okay, so one of the things that we need next is a body tag. Okay, so let's actually create this body tag that we're talking about so we could see exactly what's going on with this information. Okay, so let's see what the body tag is going to look like. So now that I have successfully written this, I need to do a body tag. Okay, So in my body, think about writing a paper. When you write a paper, in the body of your paper, that is where the most important elements go. Okay. So what I want to do next is I want to close my HTML. Okay. So think of that as your container. Every single thing that you write needs to be closed inside of that container. Right. In the same token, I need to write HTML here, and I'm going to write the language that my web page is going to be in, and it's going to be in English. Okay. And you'll notice when I hover over the close tag, it shows me that the tag closes here. When I hover over my body, it shows me that the body is closed here. Watch what happens if I forgot to close my body. You'll notice that when I click on it, it shows me that it's not closed anywhere, right? So I always want to make sure that I close my body. So I'm going to write, this is an example of a comment. This is an example of a comment. Okay, so then I'm going to come here and I'm going to write, this is an example of an open tag. Okay, then I'm going to hear, this is an example of a close tag. All right, so it's very clear as to what it is that I'm trying to do here. So right now I have absolutely nothing written in my page. Okay, so now let's talk about HTML5 headers and paragraph tags. Okay, so what are headers? Okay, so essentially what headers are the following. Okay, so the header element specifies a header for a document or a section. Okay, the header element should be used as a container for introductory content. You can have several headers elements in one document. The following are examples that you can use on how to use headers. Okay, so what it's basically saying is, in my body, okay, I can have, well, this actually body, this is a typo, is actually supposed to be, let me fix that. Okay, because everything goes in the body, guys. Everything goes in the body. So you want to make sure that as you create this, that everything sits inside of it. Right? So as I do this, let me make sure I do one of these. Boom, bada boom. Okay, so everything you write here needs to go in the body. No elements can go outside of the body, because if it does, you're going to run into issues. Okay, so that's what this should essentially look like. All right, so now let's, given that we fixed this, right, because the heading and the header has to go inside the body, let's bring back up our information. Let's actually do exactly what we have. Okay, so we're going to write H1. This is a heading 1 / H1. Okay, and then we're going to do H2. This is a heading 2. Again, whenever you write or create a heading inside of your page, okay, you want to make sure you're very clear. Okay, so now when I run this, I will now be able to see. As you can tell, heading 1 has a bigger font size than heading 2. That is because depending on the heading that you pick and specify, okay, make sure you close the heading with the right start point. Depending on the heading that you specify, you want to make sure that you call on it accurately. Okay, so in HTML, we have up to 6 headings, right? So I can write this up to 6 times. So you have H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6, okay? So now that we know this, I'm going to just leave it as that. And what I'm actually going to write here is the following. Welcome to my web page. I mean, welcome to my website is fine, right? So that's the first thing that I decided to write here. Okay. So it's very clear as to what I am trying to write here. All right. So now let's talk about the paragraph tag, because that's the other thing that we talked about, right? So if I want to write a paragraph, what I would do is I would specify with what's known as a P tag. Okay. Inside of my P tag is where my paragraphs go. So this is my first ever paragraph in HTML. It's not a real paragraph, but it's more like a sentence, but you get the gist, okay? So the P tags specifies paragraph, okay? So I can actually write paragraphs just by using P tags. So when I launch this in Firefox, you'll be able to see exactly what is going on here, right? Welcome to my website. This is my first ever paragraph in HTML. So it's very clear as to what it is that I wrote here inside of this page. All right. So now that we're learning how to do all of this, it's starting to seem pretty simple and cool, right? So this is my header. So this is an example of an open tag. This is an example of a closed tag, right? You get the gist. You want to make sure you have the slash here, all right? So now how do I add an image to my website? Okay. So in order to add an image, you want to make sure you call on the proper tag. Okay, so in order to add an image, the tag that I would actually use to add an image is the following. IMG. Okay, so IMG is my image tag. Okay. Once you've specified the IMG, you're going to write source equals. In quotes, you're going to specify what that image source is. And we're going to close it with a backslash. Okay. So how do I add an image to my site? So if I run this page right now, you'll notice that it looks like the following. There's really no images here as of right now. So if I come in here and I simply go to Google, right, and I write MBA, and I go to images, I will see a bunch of images that I can possibly add to my website. Okay. For now, since this is a lecture for Roger Williams, we're going to do RWU. Okay. So I like this little Roger Williams University image here, right? It's pretty cool. So I'm going to click on it, right, and I'm going to see that the logo basically came in. Excuse me. I'm going to right click on this image, and I'm going to select copy image location. Okay. Once I've selected copy image location, I'm going to go back to my site where I have image source, and I am going to paste that image location in between the two quotes that I've written. So I'll do it one more time. Okay. So I went on the website. I found the image that I liked. I went and I clicked on it. I right-clicked on that image and I selected copy image location. And then in between the quotes, I pasted, okay, the location right there. So now when I save this and I run it in Firefox, I will now have, okay, the Roger Williams image on my website. And I'll be able to see an image that has been added to my page that's actually looking pretty cool. Okay, and you can do that with a bunch of other images if you like. You can add as many images as you'd like to add. Now that I've successfully done that, okay, the next thing that I'm going to do is the following. So I just added an image to my page, right? And that's kind of one of the next thing that we wanted to kind of do to our page, right? So I added an image, adding an image to the page. So now let's add a hyperlink. to our page. So how do I add a hyperlink to my page? Right. So in order to add a hyperlink, all I have to do is specify what I would like for the hyperlink to be. So I'm going to do an A tag. A stands for anchor, right? So what the A tag basically does is it allows you to anchor a HTTP or whatever other sites you would like. So I'm going to write a source equals quotes, okay? And then I'm going to write click here to go click here. I'm just going to write click here. And then I'm going to close the A tag, okay? So what I just did here is, something that's, again, pretty cool, right? So I just created an anchor tag, and I'm going to put the quote in here. So the quote is a placeholder to basically go nowhere, right? You notice whenever I want to link something, I always specify and call on that source. So now when I go to run and I write Firefox, I will notice that my anchor is not working. Okay, that's fine. We got to make sure we put it together. No. A source equals ahref, not source. I'm sorry, guys. It's ahref, right? Hyperlink reference, okay? So now when I run it in Firefox, I will now notice that I have a hyperlink, okay? And I can actually click, and it goes absolutely nowhere because I didn't specify where I would like that hyperlink to go. So let's say I have this click here and I actually want it to go somewhere. What I would actually have to do is specify where I would want it to go. So let's say I wanted it to go to Google. All I actually have to do is write Google, right? So here's Google's main web page. I just have to copy this hyperlink, right? Because href stands for hyperlink reference. I'm going to paste the hyperlink here. Okay, and it will send me to Google. Let's actually see if that works. So here's my web page, right? When I click on it, boom, it brings me over to Google. Pretty simple and cool, right? It actually does exactly what I needed it to do, right? So that's basically how I would be able to add a anchor or a link to my HTML web page.